After water, coffee stands as the most consumed beverage in the world, surpassing even tea. This fact couldn't be more true than in Türkiye, where coffee acts as an indispensable element of the nation's rich history and culture, dating back to the Ottoman era. But with growing economic concerns, could this beloved beverage take a backseat to more cheaper options? Nili Kossat has the story.
Sipping on a steaming cup of coffee in a cozy cafe is perhaps a universal pleasure. But with coffee prices surging as the global economy battles inflation, are people willing to sacrifice on the one drink that fuels their day? Well, in Türkiye, not very much. Coffee, particularly Turkish coffee, serves as more than just a beverage here. It's a rich historical and cultural tradition. Turkish coffee company Top Roasters says 2023 data suggests consumption in Türkiye has increased fourfold in the last 10 years, with per capita numbers reaching 1.5 kilograms. New coffee shop brands, both foreign and local, are popping up every day across the country, despite the economic woes. And raw imports have reached 70,000 tons in 2022, in comparison to 30,000 tons in 2014, as the country doesn't produce its own coffee beans. Experts say the market will continue to grow significantly in the years ahead as cafes expand.
Well, actually, the world is living something which is called the coffee craze. And for an unknown reason, actually, people are getting more and more coffee crazy about coffee. And in the world, I mean, in big metropoles like, London, New York, Istanbul also is one of the big metropoles. Coffee shops are just getting out of hand. Only in Istanbul, according to statistics, more than 200 coffee shops are being opened yearly.
The stimulating drink first emerged in the Ottoman Empire by way of Yemen in the 16th century. Its journey from the Arabian Peninsula to the Ottoman world led to a unique brewing method only found in Türkiye.
The Turkish coffee is the oldest brewing method in the world. And we are preparing with coffee and the water in the sand is the very traditional the method, because the sand is the hot and the temperature is very important for the preparing the Turkish coffee.
Today, traditional Turkish coffee is consumed at a rate of about 70% for the entire country and remains a historical charm amid modern adaptations like lattes or cold brews.
These are traditional Turkish coffee making, I would say, recipient called cezve. And these are cups for Turkish coffee as well. Of course, with these cups, you need this to have the traditional Turkish fortune telling ceremony. So you read the fortune telling in the coffee cup.
The surge of specialty coffee varieties hasn't phased the popularity of this drink either, just as the cost hasn't.
It's getting more and more expensive, but it's worth it because I cannot drink that at home. Because I'm from Germany, we can't find that here, so the 90 lira, it's worth it.
With coffee prices expected to increase by 3 or 4 times in the near future, a dainty cup of coffee like this one may just as well become a luxury. But in Türkiye, coffee symbolizes a rich national treasure, one which for many is worth the extra money. Nili Kossat, Strait Talk.
And to discuss Turkish coffee's place in the world, joining me now from Ankara is Ahmet Erman Aral. He is the UNESCO Chair on Intangible Cultural Heritage. And from Istanbul, Cemil Hakan Kilic. He is the General Manager of Istanbul Convention and Visitors Bureau of Istanbul Chamber of Commerce. Gentlemen, welcome to Strait Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Cemil, Why is coffee so important for Turkish people? I mean, is it more than just a beverage? Is there something deeply cultural here?
It sure is. I mean, it's an integral part of Turkish society. Asking that question is like asking why football is important to Brazilians. It is the part of it. It completes our culture, and it bridges people. It resolves conflict. The least thing is the coffee itself, the drinking it, but there's much more history and much more story to tell along the way with Turkish coffee. So it is definitely a different and more than a coffee, of course.
So is it more important than tea for Turkish people?
I would say so because it is consumed rarely as compared to tea. Tea is almost everywhere all the time. But as the opposite of the Europeans and Americans, we do not drink coffee as much as they do. So due to that scarcity, not coffee itself, but the time that we drink, it makes it special. So we keep inflation away from the coffee. So by drinking on a special occasions, it brings the value to it.
Yes. So, Ahmet, how is the Turkish coffee sector expanding both at home and abroad? I mean, what makes it so popular lately?
Well, I think maybe in the last 10, 15 years, coffee has been one of the basic parts of consumption habits in Türkiye. There are thousands of coffee shops in all cities all around the country, and it is not only big coffee house chains, but also you can see small coffee shops in many neighborhoods. On the other hand, Turkish coffee has always been popular, but we were not able to observe it. People mostly used to cook and drink it home, and relatively was not that popular at public places. But I think in the last 10, 15 years, also with the use of social media and increase in the awareness of cultural values, traditions, and all that, drinking Turkish coffee has become popular among young people as well.
So, Cemil, what could you tell us about Turkey's contribution to world's intangible cultural heritages list? If I'm not mistaken, there are 16 on that list. And how does it provide a chance for Turkey's soft power projection abroad?
Well, due to my work, we go out to fairs around the globe all the time, and we see that. We're on the ground and we see that. With the Turkish coffee, it's a destination marketing, a part of destination marketing for us. It's very strong in that sense. And it is perceived very positively in overseas. But in the, it is, what we could say, it is produced in Brazil, consumed in the US, and presented in the Middle East, especially in Turkey. So it is, the coffee is known in the world through Turkey during the 1500s by Yavuz Sultan Selim at the time. It was first found in Ethiopia, drank in Yemen, and distributed to the world through Istanbul.
Yes.
So it's very important in our culture in that sense, and it's very perceived very positively around the globe.
So, Ahmet, what do you think? How are Turkish beverages and cuisine being perceived abroad? And what has Turkey been doing to promote its cultural heritage?
Well, in terms of intangible cultural heritage and UNESCO perspective, Turkey have 30 inscribed elements of intangible heritage on UNESCO lists, including Turkish coffee. And this makes us second country in the world after China in terms of the number of inscribed heritage. And obviously, UNESCO Heritage List is a valuable showcase. Firstly, it shows the richness of cultural expressions, and second, it is the proof of the cultural expertise and diplomatic power of the country. And intangible heritage obviously has a big potential for soft power and cultural diplomacy. For example, Yunus Emre Institute organizes workshops and conferences at its cultural centers on traditional chini making, storytelling, etc. And such organizations help to build good image and positive public opinion about the country.
So, Cemil, Turkish coffee is so recognizable that it has been the victim of politics. Countries which had poor relations with Turkey in the past have tried to boycott Turkish coffee. So what does that say about the status of Turkish coffee as a symbol of both the country and its people?
Well, what symbolized in that sense that the coffee brings the good deed in human nature. It's not only, let me give you an example. If you want to write a letter, a love letter to your loved one, and if you send it through an email, it means nothing. The magic goes away. You have to write it with your bare hands. Your handwriting should be on that paper, and you should be putting that letter into the envelope and send it the old school way. That way it makes sense. The same goes for the coffee. If you put the coffee in a paper cup and give it to somebody, it's just a coffee. It doesn't make any difference. It's tasteful or not. But the story behind it makes a difference. To me, Turkish coffee represents friendship and more than that, peace. You know, after every major war, people celebrate the truce by having coffee. And from a smaller scale to a large scale, in the weddings, for example, the coffee brings the happiness to people. So it symbolizes, in my opinion, joy, happiness, and peace.
So, Ahmet, the consumption of coffee is increasing worldwide. So, is this trend of growth sustainable? And how are rising prices impacting consumers' habits when it comes to drinking coffee?
Well, coffee consumption has almost doubled in 3 decades, and statistics tell us that 3 billion cups of coffee are drunk around the world every single day, which means there's a huge demand. So the sustainability is an important part of the conversation, but we know that coffee production is environmentally exploitative. It diminishes biodiversity, it exhausts water resources, and producers need fresh soil, which means you have to clear forested land to have that soil. Another problem is global warming, because warming temperatures mean up to half of current coffee farmland could disappear soon. And we know that Arabica, one of the favorite species of coffee, is a very sensitive plant to warming weather. On the other hand, climate change is already having a devastating impact on yields. So unstable harvest and unpredictable incomes force farmers to leave the coffee industry. So we're not sure if the industry will be able to fulfill the increasing demand in a few years later, because we will need 25% more coffee by just 2030.
So, Cemil, do we know which age group drinks the most coffee? I mean, have, let's say, younger people started drinking more coffee nowadays?
Yes, you can easily say that. I'll give you an example. In America, almost 150 million people. That's like a colossal number. That's half of the country. If you take the infants out and the very old out, that means almost everybody is drinking coffee. So if you take the coffee supply, you can paralyze the whole nation. There's so much into coffee. But in Turkey, it's usually, as you would all know from our childhood, it was forbidden to us when we were kids. As you grow up, well, the ages of 20 up to 40 and 50 are mainly consumed by those ages. I would say ages. And as I said again, the ingredients in coffee, it's also good for your health. If you consume a moderate amount, for diabetes, for example, it's good. Health diseases, it diminishes the health diseases a great deal. So it's healthy, other than having enjoyment of it.
So, Ahmet, for younger people, is this a way of socializing? And how do coffee shops serve for social interactions?
Well, yeah, young people, I think young people have been paying much attention to the consumption of the coffee in the last 10, 15 years. I think this is because of the effect of the social media, and also increasing the awareness of cultural values, traditions, and roots. So people started to see it as the marker of identity, especially for those living in the urban areas.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Strait Talk.